Hey, good morning. I wanted to make another video very similar to the one that I made 4 years ago right now. I will look for that video and I will link to it here. I haven't watched it, I don't think, since then, but I'm guessing it's gonna be nearly the same thing that I'm saying right now, because if you truly understand the very simple concepts behind all of the manifestation stuff, there's not much of a wild swing. It's pretty basic, it's pretty simple, and Neville Goddard nailed it in his book Feeling is the Secret, which you should read if you haven't. It's only like 15 pages long. Neville Goddard says stuff like, don't mess with the middle. Neville Goddard says you want to focus on the exact feeling that you want to become supported by a 3D reality that you don't currently have. So you don't want to focus on what you think the external reality will look like. You want to focus on the feeling of being in that reality. So the only reason that you visualize, where you'd like to be later is to generate the feeling. It's a lot easier to generate a feeling when you have sort of like a visual outer supporting scene to help create it. A lot of people can do that without that. I've never done that. I've never really been a big intentional visualizer. So this, it's a tool. It's an aid. It doesn't actually do anything outside of creating this feeling. And the feeling is the secret. So if you are like many people in this time period that is insane, like unlike anything I've ever seen in my 45 years of living in the United States, if you're one of the people who is very distressed right now, or who will be very distressed if you don't get the outcome to the US election that you would like, this is for you. Because in your personal reality, in our consensus reality, if enough people do this, then things will be all good. What you need to do is focus on the feeling that you want to have. Whatever the reasons you have are for voting a particular way, hopefully you know what those reasons are. Hopefully it's not just a blind allegiance or a blind hatred. There are a lot of people who are blinded by fear and hatred. I want to come back to that, but I don't want to go too far off what I was saying. I'm going to forget what I was going to say. Hopefully you know what the reasons are. I think for a lot of people on the left, it's the same reason for everybody. Everybody wants safety and security and prosperity. And everybody wants to feel like a good person. So if you're on the left, a lot has been drummed up to make you feel afraid, to make you think that things are going to happen that are bad. Maybe to you, maybe to just people that you care about. So there's fear. Your fear is for your safety. Your fear is for your security. If you're on the right, a lot has been drummed up to make you feel afraid for your safety and security in a different way. That the country will be overrun by people who don't want to assimilate, by people who maybe hate the country just foundationally and want to turn it over and are threatening you. So there's that. And then really, and I don't want to instill any fear in anybody, but everybody is probably afraid of the economy and the financial situation, the economic situation in the United States and across the globe. So there's really just this base of fear, and there's really just this base of a threat to your security. A threat to your ability to lead a peaceful life. So it's pretty obvious what it is that you want. You just want peace and security, and probably the ability to prosper. There's a lot of people out there who don't feel like they have any good financial prospects. And I just want to tell you that, as a person who is a self-made millionaire who's built a business from nothing, from being bankrupt, there's always opportunities for people to prosper. So that's a separate issue, but overall right now, looking out at the landscape, I understand why people feel dejected, and I understand why that would be a number one concern for people. And I understand why people get very dejected, thinking that, because the situation is sort of overall not working out for people, that it can't work out for them. That's not the case. That's just never the case. There's always a way for you to get what you want, even if everybody around you with your exact same stats, demographics, everything, even if the vast majority of those people are not able to achieve what you want, you can. That's the bottom line. Anyway, I think a lot of people who are, whether you're into manifesting or not, or whether, a particular candidate winning the election is a manifestation that you have or anything you're focusing your time on, everybody has, I think at this point, picked a person, and that's the person they very much want to win for whatever reason. That is not what you should be focusing on. What you should be focusing on is how you will feel in that imagined future where this person that you want to win has won. Because the fact of the matter is, and this is always the case, you don't know what anything means. You don't know what the outcome of that person winning will be. So if you are somebody who is hell-bent on voting for Kamala Harris, first of all, would you still feel good about that if that resulted in a worsening in all of the wars in the world, and it completely destroyed the U.S. economy and you're living like a pauper? Would you still want her to win? Would you be able to stomach Donald Trump winning if a little birdie told you, no, things are actually going to be a lot better if this guy you hate is president for the next 4 years? Would you still want Kamala to win? If so, that's a personal problem. You're not actually focused on what you want. You're focused on an outcome for an outcome's sake for some other reason, and this video is not for you. Okay, and on the flip side, if you're somebody who is like, the world is going to end if Donald Trump doesn't get elected, maybe you think that's true, and, maybe if you're voting for Kamala, you think, certain things are true. You don't know that that is the outcome of that eventuality or possibility or whatever. What if a little birdie told you, hey, if Donald Trump is elected, this country, through a series of events, is going to completely dissolve. It's going to devolve into a civil war that maybe, doesn't look like the Civil War from the 1800s, but looks like a bunch of states fighting with the federal government and, forming new, whatever. However that would even look. I don't think anybody can really quite picture what that will look like. I'm sure it would be extremely unpleasant, and I'm sure any of these outcomes would result in the people who won being very uncomfortable. So if you knew that that was going to be the outcome of your Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, winning the election, then would you still want it? And if so, I really think there's a lot of people that have this personal hatred, a personal issue with themselves, because this is what, is always at the heart of everything. There's just people that have these personal problems, and right now there is this just glowing opportunity to project it out onto others and the world. I think we're seeing a lot of that, and I don't think it's an accident. I think people have been manipulated into this place, and this was a very predictable outcome of this time period. So everybody's been sort of herded into this place, but you can become aware of it and change that for yourself. If you don't focus on what you want your reality to look like, and you instead focus on what you think the means to that end is, you're interfering with this whole manifestation thing. Period. It's a truth. It's the bottom level of this whole thing. Don't mess with the middle. Focus on what it is that you want. How do you want to feel? And live there. and ignore the reality and don't inject yourself into what you think has to happen in order for that outcome to come about. So the mistake here would be imagining yourself on November 6th, talking to other like-minded individuals and clinking a glass of champagne, saying, yay, our guy won. That would be the wrong way to go about this. I mean, if all you want is to see somebody win, then okay, that's what you would do. But given that you have no idea what the effects of that would be, and that the effects might be quite literally the opposite of what you want them to be, it's not without precedent in history for somebody to say they're going to be the candidate for, peace, love, dope, and then they turn out to be just a horrible fucking person, and everybody's going, what the hell? We voted for this person based on, premise A, and it turns out that they are a little demon. So it's dangerous to just think what the outcome of a decision that big is going to be. That's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. I'm fairly certain my video from like 4 years ago says exactly the same thing. So I'll link to that. Hopefully, you can pick up what I'm laying down here, and hopefully you can free up your mind a little bit. People are really in chains right now. It's like, I don't know if you've noticed as much as I have, that people are living in two very distinct and separate realities right now. It's interesting because all the astrologers and new age people are saying that we're shifting into a new reality right now, or we're splintering off. There's a fork in the road, and there's going to be people that are kind of like in the old reality and people that are splintering off into the new reality. And what I find interesting about these people is there's this sort of new agey type of personality that I've never personally vibed with very much. I've never personally, I always feel like there's, with a lot of these patients, with a lot of these people, I feel like there is, it's like a front, doesn't feel authentic. There's a lot of talk about peace, love, dope and shit. But I get the distinct sense in my gut that those people, when it came down to it, would be the first ones to cut your throat if you were standing in the way of what they wanted to get. If that makes sense. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I just, I don't know. I even some of the people that have a huge following that are supposed to be gurus or whatever, I've for some of these people, I've just thought, yeah, there's a lot below the surface that we're not seeing with this person. These people are all saying, we're going in one direction, everybody else is going in another direction. Which one are you going to be associated with? Are you going to give in to fear? Are you going to give in to like the lower base primal emotions, or are you going to focus on love and whatever the higher emotions would be, or vibes or feelings? And basically there's going to be two worlds, and they're both going to still be here, but you won't interact with the other world as much. Like, you'll just be experiencing, supposedly all of the worlds that it could possibly exist are right here, right now. And those people that are, in that lower realm or whatever will just fade, and assuming that you have done what you need to do vibrationally, you will vibe into the higher reality and all that stuff. And a lot of the time when I'm listening to these people, I'm just like, I don't know if you're going to be vibing into that higher realm. I just don't have that feeling from you. So I don't know. It's a little weird, but a lot of people have been saying that. The astrologers have been saying that. I take astrology with a grain of salt, but I have found it a lot more interesting in the last few years. But have you noticed that, especially in the US, I don't know about everywhere else, that it really seems like people voting on one side and people voting on the other are just not living in the same reality? Like, I realized that the people who are for the candidate that I couldn't vote for in a million years, they just don't seem to be seeing the same things that I'm seeing that are facts. Like I'm just like, but this is factually true. How can you ignore it or say it isn't? And, it's very concerning to me, because if the other side is also saying, yeah, but this is factually true, and how can you not see it? I'm like, but it's not factually true. Like, a fact is a fact, and this is not a fact. This is like what somebody said, or, that's not a fact. That's just what somebody said. I have to wonder if they're somehow seeing my reality the same way. Like, I don't know how, because as far as I know, a fact is a fact, but I'm not really sure that we're even living in the same reality anymore. So I'm not sure how that plays out. It's a little creepy. But I have to tell you, when I've asked myself, if there is a reality that is forking off, if there's a lower and a higher vibe reality that is sort of forking off from here, I don't feel like I vibe with the people who claim that they're going to the higher vibe one. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm going to the lower vibe reality. And if that's the case, that's the case. I don't know. I have no interest in, I feel like my sojourn on this earth has been basically perfect. I wouldn't change anything. Even the things that I look back and I say, well, my life would have been better if I didn't make that choice, or, that's all just intellectual. Like, this has been a perfect unfolding for me. It continues to be a perfect unfolding, even for things that make me uncomfortable, I don't like, or that I would want to change. It's just, this experience is just utter perfection in its range of bullshit. The highs, the lows, everything. And I figure that if I'm going to the low vibe reality, because I don't know. I know that the people that are saying they're going to the high vibe reality see the world in the opposite way than I do. So I've just decided that if I'm going to the low vibe reality, then that's the next perfect step on this journey for me. And I don't know. I really care about other people, and I kind of hate other people, but I do want them to do well, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to make that happen within reason. I have some boundaries outside of which I'm not willing to extend myself, but I think that's just sort of a self-respect thing. I'll tell you one thing that really does bother me. I'd be willing to sacrifice a lot for this, personally, if it would actually fix the problem. I'm not willing to sacrifice a lot personally, financially, for some unknown government entity to take care of this, because we've seen how that's gone about 1,000 times now. But I really hate, did you know that 2 billion people in the world either don't have access to or cannot afford electricity? I didn't realize that was that high. I mean, I've talked on here before about how there's a charity that I think it's called Give Directly, that I have donated money to sometimes, after reading that it went directly to people in Africa who didn't have an actual mattress, like they were sleeping on straw, or that didn't have a roof that prevented the rain from coming in. That was kind of an eye-opening thing for me, because, as an American, it's very easy to it's very easy to live your day-to-day without being exposed to anything else going on out there. And even if you are somebody who feels like you're kind of in touch, it can be hard to process what certain things that you hear actually translates to. So you can hear that people are desperately poor, but you think, well, surely they have a bed. Surely they have a roof, because that's such a base level necessity. But then when you actually see that when people are given $1,000, the first thing they do is get a mattress and a roof, and that's all it took. I don't know, that became pretty compelling for me, and I've supplied a mattress and a roof to a handful of people in Africa. Even so, I don't know why it didn't, when I heard that 2 billion people are just in the dark at night and that really blew my mind. That's 1 in 4 people in the world does not have access to electricity. That blows my mind. I would be willing to sacrifice a lot for that, if in order to rectify that. I think everybody, I'd love it if everybody in the world could be bumped up to that, at least that base standard of living. And like, what a dramatic increase for those people just having electricity would be, and being able to get it. So that is one thing I've been thinking about, and I hope that others are also, because if everybody's minds came together on that, I'm sure, and I'm sure this will happen anyway, you know, being able to produce electricity and to get it to those people cheaply enough, and to supply all of this amazing innovation that will hopefully not be just thrown by the wayside by some horrible political situation in the near-term future. That seems like something that is doable and should be a top priority. So anyway, I will leave it there because Matt is calling me, and I hope you take what I said to heart and try to feel better, and have a great day.